Book 101 review. Book 101 is all about the books that I've read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. She's an end of life grief resilience coach, no other than Miss Lee Atherton.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome, Miss Lee, on Book 101 Review. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I missed?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much for having me on. I am Lee Atherton. I'm an end-of-life expert. Spent many years as a hospice chaplain and have had some very profound experiences at end of life. What I've discovered is a lot of people come to end of life with disappointments, wishes they hadn't fulfilled and such. And it's become a passion of mine to help people live their final chapter of life, but also be prepared for that in as many ways as possible.
Yes, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Miss Lee. Thank you. And today let's talk about preparing for all aspects of end life. So, beyond the paperwork, what does it mean to be emotionally prepared at the end of life, both for oneself and for one's loved ones?
Yes, being prepared is a very broad topic. So when I talk about being prepared for end of life, have you thought about what you want for your funeral? As an officiant of many funerals and memorial services, the times when I have had someone who has said, this is the music I want, the readings I want, who I want to speak, all those pieces
Mm-hmm.
is such a gift for loved ones. If you think about it, when we die, often there's only, in the Jewish tradition, 24 hours, right?
Yes.
In the Christian tradition, typically 3 or 4 days. It's getting a little longer over recent years. But all those plans have to be figured out really quickly. Do you want to be buried? Where? Do you want to be cremated? Do you want a green earth burial? So many things. And that's just for what happens after you die. What about before you die? People think about, oh, I'm not going to die until I'm an old person, and it's pretty easy to make some choices then. But what if you were in a traumatic accident? What would you want then? Do you want to be kept alive on life support? If so, to what degree and under what circumstances? Do you want to have CPR? A lot of people say, absolutely, do CPR, right? You know, if I have a heart attack or whatever. What people don't realize is if you don't have that CPR right away, within moments, you're going to experience some degree of brain dysfunction. Brain cells will die. I have a story of a young man who was a extreme sports enthusiast, and he got in a skiing accident and was in a medically induced coma while the family tried to decide what to do. The doctors told them that he would be on life support for the rest of his life. He was a quadriplegic. He would never move any parts of his body. And that included not being able to wrap his arms around loved ones, especially his nephew who had just been born. He'd never be able to go out and enjoy extreme sports the way he had. That family had a wonderful gift in that the doctors were able to say, we can take him out of the coma so you can ask him. And imagine his parents and his sister in the hospital room going back and forth about whether or not he'd want to be alive. They did take him out of the coma. The family explained to him what his life would be like, and he said, "For me, that's not living. Please take me off life support." Um, what would have happened with that family if they hadn't been able to ask him? Right? So, thinking about these things are important at every age, and our answers may change over time. So, always, not always, but coming back every couple of years to what are your thoughts? Do you want to keep the choices you've made or change them? So that those are some of the things I think about when planning for end of life.
Hmm. Interesting and empowering, Miss Lee. Many
Very
people,
much.
yes, many people avoid this topic out of fear. What is the gentle but effective first step someone can take to overcome these resistance and start the conversation?
Yeah. All of us are going to die, yet it's probably one of the least talked about topics. I always tell people start young. And I offer workshops for conversations about end of life. There's a fabulous tool called Five Wishes, and I use that as a foundation for my workshops and deep dive longer courses. What are your wishes for your medical care? What are your wishes for where do you want to be at end of life? Uh, and it asks, the Five Wishes document asks those questions in a gentle way. I encourage people to not do it alone, to do it with your family, all of you gathered around the table together discussing these topics. Or I often go to organizations and offer my workshops there, whether that's a church or a Rotary Club or another kind of club. When we're in with other people, it's easier to begin to share our thoughts and hear what other people think. I also have a couple of I was going to say low impact. I'm not sure that's the word I want to use, but I do a virtual death over drinks where it's very informal. Come and sit at your coffee table with your glass of wine or what have you, and we'll have a conversation about many topics, right? About end of life and dying and death. So I would say finding other people to get together to begin the conversation with is probably one of the easiest ways to have conversations and start to dive into what your wishes are.
Miss Lee, how can contemplating our mortality actually enhance the way we live our lives right now?
Right, absolutely. In thinking about what we'd want at end of life, it's important to think about what are our values, what's most important to us in life. And as we stop and think about that, those values that we can name and identify become guiding principles for living our life now. When we start talking about end of life and have it be something in the forefront instead of, oh, that's a topic for 20, 30, 50 years from now, we can think about, well, what is it that we really want to accomplish during life? When I get to living life's final chapter, what do I want to be proud of? When I look back at my life, what do I want to say when someone asks me, what are the best parts of your life? If we think about it now, we can embed them in the way we live our life now.
For someone facing terminal diagnosis, how does approach to preparation shift and what becomes the immediate priority, Miss Lee?
Yeah, a terminal diagnosis certainly brings end of life right in front of our eyes. We don't have a choice anymore. That's often when I find myself coaching a person one-to-one or with their families in a very non-judgmental environment. The fears come up, definitely, and the impact of what our death is going to mean for those left behind. And so, another piece that is often thought of at that time is we start asking the questions of, what do I really believe about what happens after I die? What do I really want my family to know and hold on to after I die? For example, someone who, a Christian woman I worked with, she always said that she believed in Jesus, in God, and that she'd go to heaven someday. When she got her terminal diagnosis, it really hit. She was Catholic. She said, wait a minute, they taught me that if I didn't live just right, I was going to be in purgatory or hell. What does that really mean? What do I need to, hurry up, what do I need to do so that I'm not in that hell for forever? Right? It became very immediate.
Let's talk about the practical and legal preparedness, Ms. Lee. Let's demystify the documents. Beyond a will, what are the essential legal or medical documents everyone should have in place, and what does each one actually do?
Right. So I'm not a legal expert. So I leave the in-depth answer to that question to those experts. I encourage people to definitely have a will and be sure that you name who you want to take care of your children. A lot of people don't realize, and this may be different depending on what state you live in. I'm in Massachusetts. As a parent, if I died unexpectedly and their father died while they were still young, under age 18, if I didn't name who would be their caregiver after our death, immediately those children would be going into foster care. During that whole period of time, while the court decides who is the best legal guardian for these children. So that's one piece. Having a will, as you said, naming someone to be your healthcare proxy. And that one is really important to think through. Often we choose someone in our family, comes right to mind. But that person that you choose is there to ensure that your end of life wishes are followed through. So another example again in that, I'm not in my 70s. I'm using a person in their 70s as an example. I think I'll name my son to be my healthcare proxy. He's an adult, he's a smart guy. That's great. But if it came down to the point where he had to say, yes, my mom did not want to be on life support, I need you to pull the plug, could he do that as your son? Yeah. And then who you choose as a healthcare proxy. Have conversations with them before they're put in that position so that they know what your wishes are. At end of life, having named someone to take care of your financial part of life, again, is important. We might think, oh, my kids are getting along, they'll take care of that, or my husband can handle it. It's great when it's a thought in our mind, but if you don't have it down on paper, I have seen too often where 3 kids in a family start fighting over, no, I'm not going to spend mom's money on her being in a nursing home.
Mm-hmm.
you know. So to avoid that anger, angst, disagreement at end of life, naming your financial person.
What are the most common and costly mistakes families make when loved one dies without a clear plan, Miss Lee?
Oh, common mistakes. I'm not sure I would call them mistakes that loved ones make. Um, Rushing into decisions. Yes, that would be a mistake. And again, having plans before you die helps that. Uh, what I find more often is those who are left behind when there aren't clear directives, who then, even if it's only two people, have differing points of view. Um, and in the emotional intensity of the time, right at end of life, making fast decisions that further down the road, they look back and say, oh, I wish I hadn't made that decision. I wish I had stopped and thought about it. Um, yeah.
Interesting, Miss Lee. And what should someone choose, a healthcare proxy or executor? And what are crucial conversations do they need to have with that person?
So your healthcare proxy is someone who will advocate for you when you can no longer speak for yourself. It is a legal document. When you name your healthcare proxy, it doesn't become effective until you have a medical condition where a doctor states and signs his or her paperwork that you are no longer able to make your own decisions. That's when the healthcare proxy becomes effective. And that person that you name becomes your voice. So it's much more than just choosing who that person would be. It's thinking about what are the choices that you would make, and then having that conversation with the person and saying, if I have a heart attack, I don't want life support. I don't want CPR. Or if I'm in a horrible car accident, if I lose my legs, I'm okay with that. If I have to live in a wheelchair, that's an okay quality of life for me. Whereas that story of the sports enthusiast, that was not quality of life for him. So, right. So thinking through those things, telling your healthcare proxy that's what you choose, and writing those choices in the healthcare proxy document.
Miss Lee, as a end of life grief and resilience coach, what are your short-term and long-term goals?
My short-term and long-term goals. Short-term is to get my family to do those 5 wishes and get their wishes documented. That's one. My long-term goal is to make a positive difference in the life of at least 100,000 people by 2032. And that's helping people make these choices, being with people at end of life, officiating funerals or memorial services. I always say it's got to be, people need to leave there thinking I've known their loved one for a long time. That's very important to me, and I believe to the families I serve. And then through all the grief support that I do. I do a lot of grief support with individuals, with groups, as pet loss support. My support for people isn't only in loss of a human, but there are many losses that we face. Those are some of my ways. I've written a book, Tossed Pebbles, a grief journal. So that's one of the ways I hope to impact people, is making that available for as one of the many ways to navigate grief.
Good luck to your goals, Miss Lee, and looking
Thank you.
forward for more success.
Thank
And
you, and to you as well.
thank you. So, what would be your piece of advice for those people out there want to be like you as a coach?
Ah, my advice is jump in. Don't be afraid of the word death. Whether you reach out to me to help you on your journey or another end of life expert out there, take that giant step. It's not as frightening as it really feels.
Yes, don't be afraid, people. Life and death is a part of our life.
Right.
So don't be afraid. Face it boldly.
I love that.
So
Yes. Courageously.
courageously. And thank you for that advice. Miss Lee, and can you please recommend a book of books that influence your journey?
Yes. One of the books that I have enjoyed sharing with people for planning for end of life is Love Your Life to Death. That one's a Book Excellence Awards winner. It's by Yvonne Heath, and it's really a great book with lots of information to help you think about what you want at life's closing chapter.
Yes, what you want in life. What you want in life when you're still alive.
Yes,
Seize your day.
yes, carpe diem.
Yes, and build your legacy, people.
Right.
Yes, build your legacy. And thank you for that recommended book, Miss Lee.
You are
And
welcome.
let's talk about communication legacy. How do you recommending initiating the talk with adult children or resistant family members about your end of life wishes?
Yeah. Um, Again, it's being courageous and planning a conversation. Don't invite the family over for dinner and all of a sudden say, hey, you're here because we're talking about end of life. They're going to resist that so completely. Maybe reaching out to adult children and saying, I just attended a workshop, or I just took some time to complete the 5 wishes document and I want to share it with you. Would you come over next Saturday? Give them that heads up so that they can be in a mind space to do it. Or I invite people to invite their loved ones to a death over drinks event. Again, that's a super informal way to start the conversation. And they get an experience of just in a very relaxed manner, very informal manner, have a little bit of conversation, and then say, so, what'd you think of that? And most people say, oh, that wasn't as bad as I thought. Great, let's carry on that conversation a little bit further.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. And Miss Lee, grieving begins before death for many caregivers and the individual.
Absolutely.
How can preparation help facilitate meaningful connection and closure?
Yeah. Caregivers, take care of yourself along that journey of giving care. It's the way you're going to be able to give your best care and not look back and say, I didn't do a good job. Um, and often for caregivers, even without thinking about it, they're grieving along that journey um, as their loved one reaches different stages in their decline. They're grieving little griefs along the way, so that when their loved one actually does die, it's often the case that they say, oh, I don't feel the intensity as I thought I would. And that is because they've done a lot of grieving along the way. I think
Mm,
just being present in the moment with your loved one as much as you can during the time that you have left with them, and opening the door to meaningful conversations does a lot for how our grief will impact us afterwards.
Miss Lee, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please don't listen to my other podcast, people, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review is coming sixth season, comedy 101 in its third season, and my food 101 is already sixth season this December, geography 101, love letters, movie 101 review, music 101 our fourth season, science 101 and sex 101 in its second season, and my baby podcast, mental health 101 and law 101, Bible verses 101, and entrepreneurship 101, and motivation 101. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So obviously, finally looking at these holistically, if you could leave our audience with one single actionable piece of advice to start preparing today, what would it be?
Go for it, jump in, and know that it's not as scary as we make it to be.
Yes, life is too short, people. You should prepare
That's
that
right.
happening because death is coming sooner or later. So you need to be prepared. So, Miss Lee Atherton, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world.
Thank you.
Yes, so can you please invite our listeners to support your advocacy, your business, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Yes, I would love to hear from you. Please go to my website, coachrev.com. Reach out to me, Lee at Coach Rev. I'd love to hear what you thought of this podcast and the information I've shared, and open a discussion with each of you. I wish you all the best.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Lee Atherton because if you support her, for sure, more and more empowering coaching will rise. So, Miss Lee,
Yes.
thank you so much for your time.
And thank you very much, Daniel. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays indeed. More to come, people. See you soon.
Bye-bye.